My name is Linda, and I'm a compulsive eater. Please unmute and say the serenity prayer with me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, and welcome to the Traditions and Concepts Roundup. We are here to get better acquainted with the traditions and concepts of Alcoholics Anonymous, which are the backbone of our service structure. We want all the World Service Conference delegates to be up to speed on these core elements of how we do what we do based on the experience, strength, and hope of our presenters and the questions posed by attendees today. Today, we have asked 4 people well-versed in the traditions and concepts to take one concept and one tradition and share about each for 5 minutes. We have asked that they tell a story, since that's the way we learn best in our program, one member sharing with another. After tradition 4 is read, is discussed, we will pause and ask if anyone has a question about it. There will be 5 minutes for discussion, for questions after the presentation, and then we move on. So the first tradition would be reviewed, and then the second that we're doing today, and and in between, we're going to have 5 minutes of question and answer. So if you have questions in Spanish, we would like you to type your question into chat. Olga will then translate into English. Do I have that correctly, Joy? Okay. And then whoever can will answer the question, and she will translate back into Spanish. So sometimes we may need to pause for a minute to read chat. If I don't notice it, would somebody please let me know? Okay, let's see, where are we? Are there any GreySheeters Anonymous announcements that need to be made right now? Okay, moving on. There will be another chance at the end to make any announcements you might have. 7th tradition, we are self-supporting through our own contributions. Your presence here is more important than your money, but if you can donate, please text the letters NMW to 44321 if you're in the United States, or go to GreySheet.org/donate/donate. And in the comments section or the dedication section, please write traditions and concepts. Our timer today is, I need a volunteer. Joey, thank you. Okay. They will give our speakers a 1-minute warning. And when they say time, please acknowledge that you have heard them and wrap up quickly. Today, our first speaker is Carla B., and she will speak on Tradition 5 for 5 minutes, and we'll have questions and answers for 5 minutes after that. Please take it away, Carla.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carla. I'm a food addict, compulsive eater, and bulimic. Really glad to be here this morning. I'm stepping in for someone who had to cancel, and so I'm going off format because, I'm kind of like that. So what grabbed me in Tradition 5, each group has but one primary purpose: to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers, is the story that is told within the tradition. And so I'm going to read that and then open it up for conversation. So this gentleman says, restless one day, I felt I'd better do some 12-step work. Maybe I should take out some insurance against a slip. But first, I must find a drunk to work on. So I hopped on the subway to Town's hospital, where I asked Dr. Silkwood if he had a prospect. Nothing too promising, the little doc said. There's just one chap on the third floor who might be a possibility, but he's an awfully tough Irishman. I never saw a man so obstinate. He shouts that if his partner would treat him better, if his wife would leave him alone, he'd soon solve his alcohol problem. He's had a bad case of the DTs, he's pretty foggy, and he's very suspicious of everybody. Doesn't sound good, does it? But working with him may do something for you. So why don't you have a go at it? I was soon sitting beside a big hulk of a man. Decidedly unfriendly, he stared at me out of eyes which were slits in his red and swollen face. I had to agree with the doctor. He certainly didn't look good. He interrupted and scoffed at the things I said. He scoffed and asserted that he'd fix his wife, his partner, and his alcoholism by himself. Sarcastically, he said, "How much does your scheme cost?" I was thankful I could tell him nothing at all. His next question, "What are you getting out of it?" Of course, my answer was my own sobriety and a mighty happy life. Still dubious, he demanded, "Do you really mean the only reason that you are here is to try and help me and to help yourself?" "Yes, that's absolutely all there is to it. There's no angle." Then, hesitatingly, I ventured to talk about the spiritual side of our program. What a freeze that drunk gave me. I'd no sooner got the word spiritual out of my mouth than he pounced. "Oh, now I get it. You're proselytizing for some damn religious sect or another. Where do you get this no angle stuff?" "I belong to a great church, which means the world to me, and you have the nerve to come in here talking religion." And he goes on to say, where am I at time? Oh, there I'm at time. Okay. Perhaps you have a far greater faith than my own. No doubt you're better taught in religious matters than I am. So I can't tell you anything about religion. I don't want to try. I'll bet too that you could give me a letter perfect definition of humility. And so okay, give me that business. "Well, I think you are just a conceited Irishman who thinks he can run the whole show." That really rocked him. But as he calmed down, he began to listen while I tried to show him the humility was the key to sobriety. Finally, he saw that I wasn't attempting to change his religious views. "Now," the old-timer concluded, I'd been obliged to talk to this man on
Carl,
religion.
1 minute warning.
Thank you. Now, concluded the old-timer, suppose I'd been obliged to talk to this man on religious grounds. Suppose my answer had been that AA needed a lot of money, that AA went in for education, hospitals, or rehabilitation. Suppose I suggested I try a hand at his domestic and business affairs. Where would we have wound up? No place, of course. Years later, this tough Irish customer liked to say, "My sponsor sold me on one idea, and that was sobriety. At the time, I couldn't have bought anything else." So that is the story out of tradition 5. I just think it's so aptly speaks to that is what we have to offer, is that we are alcoholics, and to tell our stories to another alcoholic. And does anybody have anything they want to add to that? Any thoughts, any ideas,
Well, thank you, Carla. We will open it up now for questions and comments. So we have 5 minutes. Jump in. Please raise your digital hand, and Joey's going to time us. He'll let us know when there's 1 minute left for questions and answers. And we have to stay on track because there's so many things to present today. Grania.
Thank you, Linda. I'm not sure if you said raise your digital hand, and sorry if you did and I didn't. I'm Grania Compulsive Eater. and I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet, turn them over, don't eat no matter what. It is the most important thing. And my abstinence date is September 16th, 1994. Thank you, Carla. You know, I think this isn't so much a question as really that reading this reminds me or strengthens my belief that anything that happens in a gray sheet meeting must be directly related to the gray sheet message. Because if it's related to something else, like a particular religion or a particular author's opinion about food addiction or a particular nutrition issue, then the newcomer could be led to believe that that is the purpose or a main part of our program. And it really strengthens my commitment to only talking about food addiction and gray sheet abstinence in gray sheet meetings. Thanks.
Thank you, Grania. Karen, go ahead.
Thank you. I am Karen, and I am a compulsive overeater, and I am not normal around food. And I do, like you all do, weigh and measure, commit to my sponsor, eat only the things I commit, don't eat in between, no matter what. And abstinence is saving my life every day that I do this. Thank you so much for that information. I am brand new to all of this, and hearing that if I had been approached in the beginning that this was a religious program and had all these rules and regulations to follow, and this was the person you had to listen to and all of that, I wouldn't be here, because I tried that and it didn't work through religious circles. And all I know is that I have to adhere strictly to the GSA message, and that is weighing and measuring. And it is a spiritual program, but it doesn't have anything to do with organized religion. And I'm so grateful for that, because I have found a new freedom in my own spirituality and a higher power that cares about me, and hearing in meetings the message of Gray Sheet only, and not having to do all these other things, is such a freedom, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you all for your service, and love you all very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. We have another minute and some seconds. Carla, please take it away.
I just wanted to say that one of the things this brings up for me is a few years ago, you know, we went through the World Service process that we use AA and GSA conference approved literature. And it really speaks to that part of the thing that Grania was talking about, is in that there's lots of great stuff out there. You know, there's even lots of great literature that is 12-step-ish or 12-step based, but it hasn't gone through what I imagine to be a pretty rigorous process of becoming conference approved literature. And so it just gives us a place. We know that this is what we do, and that our primary purpose is to stay abstinent and help the other compulsive eaters to achieve abstinence. And so we stick with that.
Awesome. Last few seconds, anyone? Okay. Carla, will you now speak to us on concept 5? And we'll do that for 5 minutes and then have questions and answers.
Great. Yes, I would be so happy to. So I hope that you all are well acquainted with the AA illustrated concepts and traditions, because I think that is just a little miracle pamphlet. And that's where I'm going to be reading on concept 5, because I really have a very limited experience with that. And so I thought it would really serve me to read through it again out loud, and hopefully it will you as well. So this is concept 5. Throughout our world service structure, a traditional right of appeal ought to prevail, thus assuring us that the minority opinion will be heard and that petitions for a redress of personal grievances will be carefully considered. Newcomers to AA's General Service Conference are often surprised at the pains taken by the presiding officer to make sure the minority vote has a second opportunity to present their views. Even after extensive debate on an issue, followed by a vote in which a substantial unanimity is reached, those opposed are polled individually to see if they wish to speak further on their minority view. In fact, numerous instances can be cited in which this minority view is so compelling the conference has then reversed itself. This is AA's right of appeal in action, and Bill says the same principle should apply to meetings of our area committees, trustee committees, and boards. On an issue of grave importance, the minority has the actual duty of presenting its views. This right of appeal recognizes that minorities frequently can be right, that even when they are in the error, they still perform a most valuable service when they compel a thoroughgoing debate on important issues. The well-heard minority, therefore, is our chief protection against an uninformed, misinformed, hasty, or angry majority. Trusted servants, according to Bill, do for the groups what the groups cannot or should not do for themselves. And in exercising their right of decision, which is in concept 3, trusted servants are almost always a small but truly qualified minority. Whether in the area of area committees, staffs, boards, or even the General Service Conference itself, it is incumbent upon them, therefore, in their own meetings, to pay special deference to the minority voice. And I'm wondering, I have seen this process in action. We use this when proposals are going through our layers of process from coming up from the community into a committee and then to the chairs and ISRs for a vote, and then of course to the board, and then to the congregation. I almost say, good, talk about religion. Sorry, the conference. And we, and we have had the situation where the minority has come back in and really were heard in a way that had people change their vote. And I think this is one of the many ways that we, as a 12-step organization, really just do things different than the world at large. And I'm going to leave it there. Does anyone, Grania, I know you could, not to put you on the spot, of course. I don't recall the particulars that we had a couple of years ago where we changed our vote in the World Service Conference. If you happen to, great. If not,
You're muted, Grania.
I was talking to myself. Thank you, Linda. I was saying, where is the raise your hand? Thank you, Linda and Carla. And I am Grania Compulsive Eater still. And so, yes, we've had one situation where the minority opinion led to a motion to re-vote, and the re-vote changed the outcome. And I think it was on the issue of what it takes to be a delegate to the conference. And the original proposal was 90 days of abstinence. And the minority wanted it to be longer, to be 1 year, to give people a chance to really get their abstinence under them and then turn their attention to that level of service. And I think that was the one that switched. And so But what I wanted to say personally, when you talk about stories on this, is that every year when we go through this at the conference meeting, I feel like everybody is tapping their toes and drumming their fingers and saying, oh, come on already. Do we have to have this thing about let's hear from the minority again? Can we not just keep going? And so as a chairperson of the meeting, I really have to steel my backbone and say, yes, we are going to go through the procedure, even though we debated, even though we just voted, even though it was a substantial unanimity. I am going to take time to ask if anybody who voted against it wants to speak against or for if it failed. And we're going to wait and we're going to listen to them. And we're going to ask for a motion to reconsider. And we're going to wait and we're going to take it, even if I get the social pressure of impatient delegates who want to move on. And I'm really glad that we do. And it's a good thing.
Microfono, Granny.
It's good for me too. So thank you. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Linda.
Maggie, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Maggie. I am a compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet, turn them over to a sponsor. Don't eat between my meals, no matter what. And I've done that since July 27th, 1990. And I just wanted to say that the spirit of this particular concept kind of permeates and percolates through to the committee level, because I have been on a committee where, and working on a subcommittee on a piece of literature. I'm a member of the literature committee, and where there have been a number of people that were on the editing team. And one person in particular had one particular viewpoint, and it may have been in opposition to but we took the time to work through it. And what happened was it made, because we took the time to hear the minority opinion and work through it, we were able to come to a collaboration and really reach a consensus on what we wanted the final document to be. So I just wanted to make the point that this concept permeates down through a number of levels and down to the committee and subcommittee level on in terms of committees. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for that, Carla. Well done.
Dottie, please go ahead.
Hi, August 16th, 1999, I'm Dottie, and I was at the 2016 World Service Conference where we did have a minority opinion, and I changed my mind, because those argued were long timers and they were so passionate that I trusted in their wisdom, and I changed my vote. And that was known as the crazy World Service Conference, though. It's much more sane now, so, and I pass.
Thank you. Okay, time to move on. Carla, thank you for your presentations, and everyone, thank you for the comments you made. Next, we're going to have Deborah L. speak to us on Tradition 6 for 5 minutes. And then we will take questions and answers for 5 minutes after that. So Deborah, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Deborah. I'm a compulsive overeater. And I too, like everyone else, write my food down, color in my sponsor, and don't eat in between no matter what. And I will be just reading the tradition first, Tradition 6 out of the 12 and 12. AA. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name, to any related facility or outside enterprise. Least problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose, which is central. And so, of course, being a student, or have been a student, I had to prepare and make notes. So on page 155 in the 12 and 12, it does go into how this came about and gives us information on how AA wanted to go out and educate, because there were so many great things that were happening once we put down a drink. There's so many, all of this wealth that they learned, they wanted to go out and out into the medical field, put this information in the medical books, and wanted to create an AA movement for addiction, or in the criminality and the mental health. This is on page 155, and I moved into page 156. They wanted to take AA into the factories and cause laborers and capitalists to love each other, clean up politics. And so you can see it's bleeding into all of these areas, with religion, the medical field, the resolve differences, and these tactics of turning AA into a business, a hospital or schools, and publicize its merits. It became confusing, and then people were wondering, well, does AA fix drunks, or is it an educational project, right? So they attempted, also to have legislative reform, which really bogged down getting it and making it political, and that's on page 157. Removing AA's name from clubs and 12-step houses, and in no circumstances could we endorse any related enterprise, because it takes the primary purpose of staying sober, it mixes it, which is why that first group, the Oxford group, did not work. So on page 157, they mention how, give this one last story about how the liquor, the trade show, wanted to use a representative from Alcoholics Anonymous to first, against another tradition, to make reveal his anonymity, make on press, radio, and film, and also connect the AA name with, what you have to avoid, or how to watch out for, alcoholism. And what they saw was this compromise was too, AA as a whole, it was too harmful, because it would open up the doors for other businesses to use AA, to other representatives use AA to substantiate their business. And that we could not, and which is why we couldn't lend the AA name, mix it, bleed it into for any other cause other than what the primary purpose is, to stay sober and help another recovering alcoholic, help another alcoholic. That was it. Hope I kept in my time.
Thank you. We'll open it for questions. Does anyone want to start? Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Deborah. You can raise your digital hand. You can type your questions in Spanish into the chat. Oh, Maggie.
Yes, sorry, chatty Cathy today. I just, one of the things that came up for me about this particular tradition is that one of the things that has happened in terms of GreySheet is that I have heard that the GreySheet food plan and program was once, and I don't know how true this is, was once co-opted to support a particular person's attempt to monetize a weight loss program. And that to me is a perfect example of what we're trying to avoid. And as I say, I don't know the particulars of this particular story. I just know that it was one member seeking to monetize the program for their own benefit. And that would lead people to, yes, it would lead people astray and violate our primary purpose. Thanks.
Thank you, Maggie. Next. Grania.
Thank you, Linda. Still compulsive eater named Grania. And there are two things that have happened that have been brought to my attention since I've been on the board. We have had at least 2 members who required their sponsees to buy specific food products from the member. So they had a business where they sold specific foods and they required their sponsees to buy those foods from them. And I think the other one was vitamins. So the sponsor was selling vitamins and she required her sponsees to buy those vitamins. And you know, people called me outraged about it, but nobody was ever willing to tell me who the persons were. So there really wasn't anything that we could do. And I think it makes me remember that the thing that keeps us adhering to the traditions is that we will eat again if we don't follow the traditions. They are self-regulating. If we don't do what experience shows works, we are the ones who will suffer. And then the other thing is that we do have GreySheet members who are professionals in the area of food addiction, and they are very careful not to say, I'm in GreySheet, so I can open a treatment center for food addicts. They just say, I'm a doctor, I'm opening a treatment center for food addicts. Or I'm a trained counselor, I'm going to be a counselor for food addicts. They do not say, I'm a GreySheeter and I'm going to be counseling as part of GreySheet. So we've been really lucky with how our members have adhered to keeping those two things separate in that side of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Grania. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Then thank you all. Deborah, would you now speak to us on concept 6 for 5 minutes?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
For this, I went into my service manual. So I have an AA service manual. This is the years from 21 to 2023. So the page numbers, a few things may have changed as they do. But if you have and you want to look along, it's concept 6 is on page C19. And I'll just read this. On behalf of AA as a whole, our General Service Conference has the principal responsibility for the maintenance of our world services, and it traditionally has the final decision respecting large matters of general policy and finance. But the conference also recognizes that the chief initiative and the active responsibility of the conference, responsibility in most of these matters should be exercised primarily by the trustees, members of the conference, when they act among themselves as the General Service Board of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that can sound quite lengthy and not too clear. So what I wrote in my notes on this one is the trustees have the liberty. So the Board of Trustees have a huge amount of responsibility and authority, right? So they hold a significant amount of responsibility. So trustees have a wide latitude. They were given a wide latitude of administrative freedom, judgment, and action. AA or GreySheet trustees holds trustees mainly responsible for all service activities. And I get into page C20, the entities, you know, the accounting, the budget, the banking, legal, and nowadays in virtual, you know, our responsibility virtually. In regards to formulating the literature, our public relations policy, so that we see to it that it's proper execution, where the trustees are the guardians of the 12 the traditions, how the use of funds are decided, funds over the whole, right? And with this amount of responsibility, they are given a large grant of authority. The trustees must have ample authority to conduct, you know, business. So page C20, it takes on, it also explains, it takes on a corporate format, not an institutional or government. They felt that corporation format is a more, they use the word superior model to handle the administrative business and the policy, creating the policies more effectively. Top to bottom on page C20, they discuss, of course, the you know, the AA group is at the top. Like they're the stockholders. The delegates are the group's representative at the annual meetings. So the delegates at our World Service Conference, right? They speak for the voice of the group, right? So the General Service Board trustees are the directors of the holding company. This board owns and controls the subsidiaries, which carry out the activities in the business of World Services. So, which is why the trustees are given the authority to effectively manage the principal world affairs of AA GreySheet. And so some of the subsidiaries I just pointed out again is like the budget, the overall budget, public information, literature, policy. And in order to do that effectively, the trustees are given that amount of latitude to be able to perform the business for the whole. But we do still take our direction from the groups, you know, the delegates, and then we're given the responsibility to make the best prudent decision, of course, with the voice of the higher power in the conscience of the assembly. So I hope I made my time.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you very much, Deborah. So that is concept 6. Do we have any comments or questions for Deborah on concept 6? Joey has wonderfully put them in the chat. I'm not seeing any. Oh, Grania, please go.
Thank you. Sorry to, Maggie said she was chatty Cathy, but I'm really jumping in. But thank you, Deborah. This one really has been hitting home for me recently, because even today, I got a very nasty email from a GreySheet member saying that something that was done was not, who do you think you are, basically was the message. And I get those messages not infrequently. So the board and the World Service Conference does something, and then somebody doesn't like it, and they say, who are you to do that? And so it's somewhat, you know, I guess personally what I could say is I wish people understood that they have an option to have a voice, and that is to belong to a group that sends a GSR to the conference to A, vote on policies, and B, elect the board who are going to make the decisions to implement those policies. and then as a GSR, serve on one of the committees that proposes those policies. And then if you don't like it, you can at least rest assured that you had a voice along the way. But to turn around and say, you're just a bunch of people who told you you could tell us. And so that's one part of it. And then the other part is we aren't an authority. We don't tell anybody to do anything. In terms of world service, we just say this is how we're going to do world service. How you do your abstinence, how you work your spiritual program, how you conduct your meetings, what your intergroup does. World service doesn't have hardly anything to say about any of that. And when we do, we're really careful to say this is just suggested guidance. It's not, we're not telling you to do anything. So I would love it if more people understood this this tradition or this concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Grania. 2 more minutes. Dottie.
I might as well get in on the chatty stuff. Hi, I'm Dottie, compulsive eater, August 16th, 1999. And really the primary purpose is to reach out to the sick and suffering. And that's why we need world services. And they need, organization to stay alive. We need the website, we need the meeting list. We need, we need the information. Public Service Committee, maybe it's forming again, but I don't know. But that should be the most important committee, and that's the one that's been struggling over the years. And it's yeah, every meeting's autonomous. And I don't know, I've heard us called bureaucrats, and we're GreySheeters. It's like, I don't know. It goes back to, I know it goes back to my childhood and the rebellion against authority. And I think that's what it is, perceived. There's a need to target, because there's anger and rebellion and it needs to come out. And unfortunately, I think we're targets. So I'll pass.
Thank you, Dottie. Okay. We are at the halfway point. Everybody do something weird with your upper body. All right. Deborah, thank you so much for those 2 presentations. That was awesome. Our third speaker is going to be Joey. Let me speak correctly there. And Joey is going to speak on tradition 7 for 5 minutes, and then we will have questions and answers. Joey, take it away.
Thanks, Linda. Hey, everyone. My name is Joey, and I am a compulsive eater. Today, I take responsibility for my actions. It means I weigh and measure 3 meals off the gray sheet to write them down. I call and commit to my sponsor on time. I don't eat no matter what, and abstinence is my primary purpose today. So tradition 7, it's GSA group oath to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. What I got from this tradition, I am blessed enough to be. Oops, forgot my time. I could speak forever. I'm I'm blessed enough to be the assistant treasurer for the World Service, and also I was given a chance to be the chair of the 7th edition, and I have no idea what I'm doing when I first came into this World Service position. So I started looking at the traditions. I started working the concepts, and this is what I got from tradition 7. It says that some members think that being fully self-supporting applies only to financial matters. So, wow, I had a chance, because the principle behind tradition 7, however, encourages us to be self-supporting in all areas of our lives. Many affected by the disease of compulsive eating had been financially, emotionally, physically, and spiritually dependent on others. This dependence may be contributed to our low self-esteem, distrust in decision-making, or fear of abandonment. And it also says here, tradition 7 also reminds us that we can rob others of their dignity and self-respect if we allow them to develop an unhealthy dependence on us. So what I got from this tradition is that, the organization, the group, needs to be fully self-supporting. It doesn't necessarily mean it's about financial matters. When I got into the tradition, the seventh tradition group, there were like four of us, Grania, Ofer, and Lee, together with us. And we basically did not want to put on that, hey, listen, we need your money, we need your donations. But what we started is that we based our concept on basing on the four functions of our fellowship. That is we protect the gray sheet, we have literature, we have the website, and we have the last one is the public information, which unfortunately we don't have it right now. So we base on those things that are available. What are we doing to the community? And by so doing that, the board were able to get into different events and let them know what we're doing to our community. And by doing that, personally, I heard people saying, wow, you're doing a lot of things to the group. How can we help you? Where can we send the money? And that's where that's where the perspective is. We want your money, but the other way around, we want to educate you on where we're going to bring the money. So that's been helpful. We were able to get a lot of things like, easy ways of, texting, if you are a US, in US, we are able to get the text to donate, thing, Europeans, we have those transfer wise and those things. We want to make it easier for us to ensure that where we're sending the money. And the transparency, we publish in our website, the financial status of our, fellowship on a monthly basis. If you want to go to GreySheet.org and you could look at the treasury or the finances, and it's all available there. But with my other 1 minute and 25 seconds, I want to put on something that I learned within the program in all of my fellowship, which I could base it here. We are self-supporting, not only with money, but we are self-supporting with our groups. Because it happens to one of my meetings, it's just always me, the other one who does the chairs, and no one would do the chairs, and we have to close down because no one wanted to take service. So that means that the group needs to be self-supporting. It can't just be me and the other ones going to do the positions, but we need to have rotation of service. And that's what I learned about Tradition 7. We need to be part of this group. We need to do service so that it could support itself. And that's my other version of self-supporting. So I'm gonna hold that.
Thank you, Joey. And we'll take 5 minutes for questions or comments on Joey's share. Grania.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Joey. I really appreciate you talking about being self-supporting in all those other areas. That was really very thought-provoking, and kind of made me think about the fact that, because I'm going to be talking about the fact that it's okay to hire professionals to do services that professionals can do for us. But at the same time, I'm sure our fellowship is full of people with all the skills we need. And I wish that they would come forward and we would have GreySheeters doing all the things that we need done. That would be really nice if we were supporting ourselves in that way as well. And then on the money front, something that's been on my mind is that we have a large balance, which didn't come because we got massive donations. It came because basically World Services wasn't really doing anything for many, many years. And so we weren't spending the money. And people were donating for years before a single cent was being spent. And then for 10 years, we spent all of our money on lawyer fees to get ownership of the gray sheet and register the trademark. And then again, we didn't spend any money for a long time. So when we start providing services that cost money, we are going to we're going to eat up our savings. And then I wonder, will our fellowship really be self-supporting? Will we continue to donate enough to pay for the things that we have agreed to pay for? It's been on my mind. Thanks.
Sorry, couldn't find my unmute button. Thank you, Grania. Any other comments about tradition 7? Okay, I don't see any Spanish questions either, so we will move on. Oh,
Yo quiero hacer una pregunta.
Did we lose Olga?
Ok, voy a escribir.
Angela said she would like to ask a question. Can you ask it, Angela? I don't know how to say it in Spanish.
Sí.
Gabby, can you help?
Escucho. Gracias. Bueno, mi nombre es Ángela María y estoy abstinente desde el 11 de julio del año 2022 con los lineamientos de la hoja gris de Cambridge. Yo quiero preguntar un grupo nuevo si debe tener esos 2 meses de prudente reserva antes de comenzar a comprar cosas para el grupo o si por conciencia podamos hacer otra cosa. A veces creo que lo más responsable sería tener esa prudente reserva y cumplir con aportes y luego pasar a otras cosas. Me gustaría escuchar que pueden orientarnos porque aquí en Medellín, Antioquia, Colombia, este mes nació el primer grupo de GSA. Es el 1 de mayo nos reunimos y luego todos los sábados nos hemos reunido y el objetivo es ese. Estamos muy felices, siempre vamos 4 y la semana pasada fuimos 6. Gracias.
Thank you, Angela. Gabby, I think I understood, but it'd probably be better if you interpreted the question. Can you tell us what Angela asked?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I will try. Angela asked
Gabby,
about
would you like me to try to say what I thought it was, and then you can tell me if it's correct? Would that help?
Okay.
I
there's
believe.
also a translation from Olga in the chat.
Oh, Olga is there.
Okay, so the question is, a new group, do we need to wait before investing? Colombia has a new group.
And I think what she means by investing is donate to world services as opposed to saving their money for local expenses.
Would you like to answer that, Grania?
Me refería a que estamos recogiendo la 7ª tradición en los sábados de las reuniones y el 1 de mayo, que fue nuestra primera. Pero entonces, a veces me inquieta si nos vamos a ubicar solo en nosotros, porque sí tenemos con qué ya pagar el arriendo de este mes en el local. Pero entonces las contribuciones también para mí son vitales porque si no hubiera nacido allá en el país donde nació, no hubiéramos recibido ese regalo acá. ¿Cómo manejar eso para que seamos un grupo que se conecte bien con todo?
Grania, did you get that?
Not
Okay,
enough of it.
Okay,
the question,
Olga.
Olga.
she answered, May 1 was our first meeting. Contributions are vital. How can we share? Maybe I'm going to base it on my experience when I first started the group, when I started my home group. Again, 7th tradition, we are self-supporting. there's a treasurer pamphlet that's available in our website, and it will tell you, guidance on how we do it. We need to put on our prudent reserve first. We make sure that our meeting, if we need to pay meetings, that we are self-supporting, that we're able to pay the cost of our meetings, the cost of our literatures, and if there's any more money left, then we could allot it to how the treasurer pamphlet, suggest, to give to the World Service or to the intergroup. That's my own experience with the seventh tradition. If you would like to add there anything else, Grania. Okay.
Thank you, Joey. Angela, did we answer your question?
Maravillosamente, gracias. Un abrazo.
De nada.
Gracias.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. So, Joey, would you please speak to us now on concept 7 for 5 minutes?
Okay, concept 7, I'm still Joey, a compulsive eater. Concept 7, the charter and bylaws of the World Service Board are legal instruments, empowering the trustees to manage and conduct World Service affairs. The conference charter is not a legal document. It relies upon tradition and the GSA pursuit of for final effectiveness. This concept is new for me. So what I got from concept 7, it says, on what I read is that concept 7 addresses the balance between legal and traditional authority and encourages us to seek clarity in our roles and responsibilities. We know there are matters that can be only resolved through the laws that govern us. For example, it says the authority within the framework of a specific job description or may be responsible for personal contracts. It allows us to dispute within the situation the rules that govern the workplace or the stipulation of the contract that are binding. That's the legal system. And it says that the traditional are based on the concepts and traditions of our service. That means that when the trustees are entrusted to maintain transparency, to know that there are legalities, there are legal manifestations that we need to be transparent with all financial matters. We need to know. We need to let the people, the fellowship know where the money is coming from and where the money is being spent. If there's any legal things that we need to discuss, there was an issue about a fellow GreySheeter who published a GreySheet book, if I may believe, and there was some talk about within the board whether we would pursue letting them know that that's not that's something that we need to discuss with. So those are the legal things. We spoke about just for today. We had a board meeting and we were talking about the safety statement, and bottom line is we need to accept those things, that we need to be legally responsible for those things. The other part, that's the board of trustees. We are administrators for the policy and the finance. Then the other side, it says on concept 7, the conference charter is not a legal document. It relies upon tradition and GSA pursuit for final effectiveness. Like what Grania was saying, there's no guide. We are the board, the conference charter follows the direction of the tradition. Concept 2, concept 3, we rely on a power greater than ourselves, the tradition. It allows us to understand that, like for tradition 2, when we have a lot of discussions that would create, animosity and those things within the group, the intergroups or even at the meetings, we rely on the traditions. Tradition one states that our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon GSA unity. And tradition two also says that for our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. So it gives us the balance also, like what it says on tradition 7, it gives us the balance between what is the legal responsibility and what is the traditional authority that we would base our fellowship with. I think that's what I have for concept 7.
Thank you, Joey. That was wonderful. Do we have any questions or comments?
Bien. ¿Hay comentarios? ¿Alguna pregunta?
Yo quiero preguntar. Bueno, yo quiero preguntar cómo manejar para la séptima tradición ese anonimato al pasar la séptima. Hay personas que están contando días y estamos 2 de 90, pero en principios sería bueno que nadie deje ver que llevan la mano, simplemente lo dirija allí, ¿cierto? Es más espiritual y respetuoso para los nuevos que no tienen un dinero de pronto que llevar o que no tienen el mismo monto de otros. ¿Cómo o de qué libro hacer un resumen para leer en mi grupo y que eso lo vayamos convirtiendo en principios, en que nos comportemos de acuerdo a para que el bienestar común se vaya implementando y manteniendo?
Thank you.
Gracias, Angela. Okay, we're going to wait for Olga to put in the question in English. Okay, the question is, gracias, Angela. This is more spiritual. What can I read in our group for newcomers with no money? It goes back. I'm gonna try to do it to answer that in my own experience. So what I got. This is more spiritual. What can I read in our group for newcomers with no money? I would suggest that you read the treasurer's report. The treasurer's the pamphlet that we have. It tells us about, what can you do? There's also a saying in the 7th edition, if you don't have the money, I'm just rephrasing that, we need you more than we need the money, Angela. That means that you are most welcome. We don't discriminate people who don't have the money. If you don't have the capability of donating, just keep coming back. Because you could also do service in other ways. You could also start being a GSR once you have the amount of service that you have. You could become a booker for the meetings, and those things. And by learning those things, you could be part of the service positions that we badly need in our fellowship.
Deborah, I see your hand up. I would like to see, though, if we've answered Angela's question. Olga, have we answered Angela's question?
Sí, lo que me queda faltando es cuando llevan la mano a la bolsita aquella, cómo ilustrarlos para que por favor guarden anonimato sobre lo que llevan en la mano. Si está una moneda, si hay un billete o si está vacía. O sea, que hagamos cómo motivar esa parte de la literatura para que eso comience a reinar el principio.
What I think you asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, Olga, let me see. What was
No hay
there's
audio,
anything in the
no
chat?
escucho.
Okay, so when they put their hand in their pocket, how can we motivate anonymity on how much people put in the basket?
Ah, sí, perfecto.
Okay. So again, based on my experience, we suggest that we put it in an envelope the money and just put it inside the envelope so that no one knows how much money everyone puts in as a donation.
Thank you. Thank you, Joey.
Okay.
Deborah, you had a comment. I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah, quickly, based on the third tradition, whether anyone has any money or not, we come and we're accepted because we have a desire to stop eating. It's not contingent on how much we can contribute. And what I've learned in regards to contributing is when we let groups know where money is going, how far and wide, in different, not only in this country, in other countries, and what money is used for, and how to reach other people, then it helps people to be motivated to give. They see what else is done with finances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joey, thank you for those presentations. Thank you so much. If I'm not mistaken, we are now at Grania's share. Okay, Grania is going to present Tradition 8 for us for 5 minutes, and then we will have 5 minutes of questions afterwards. Thank you. Please take it away.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everybody. And first, let me apologize for putting Gabby on the spot and seeming to cut Olga out of the picture. I had my settings such that I could not see anybody who was not on video. So I thought the only people left here who spoke Spanish were Gabby and Angela, and that Olga had been booted out of the meeting for technical reasons, and I thought we were going to be trying to figure out what the question was. So I apologize for confusing the issue. And so I'll turn my attention to Tradition 8, which in the AA 12 Steps and 12 Traditions says Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. And I think that it really is a great idea for us to discuss the traditions, because it took me many, many years to understand this. And even though it can be put in what seems like a very simple way, it still took me a long time to understand it. So basically, what Bill is saying in this chapter is, it doesn't work. Addicts do not listen to paid professionals. Even if those professionals are addicts themselves, addicts are not helped by paid professionals. Addicts are only helped by another compulsive eater, in our case, sharing their experience, strength, and hope. And only then can we carry on the message. So that is our 12th step. And we can never pay anybody to do the 12th step, to carry the message, to sponsor me, to come to my hospital bed and explain the program to me. But as a person in the program who wants to carry the message, there are lots of resources that I would like, and we do need to and can pay people to provide those resources. So if we want a website, so that if somebody says to me, how did you manage to lose all that weight? And I want to introduce them to GreySheet, I can say, go to GreySheet.org. Because we pay a web professional to design and maintain a fabulous website. And if somebody joins our program and goes to meetings and gets abstinent and says, I want to understand this program more, how can I deepen my understanding? I can say, go to exlibris.com and order the book Living Abstinent, or the GSA 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, because we paid for that to be published by a professional publisher. So there are lots of resources that World Services provides, and they cost money. And even when somebody orders the book, GreySheet, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, we actually pay a GreySheet member to put that in an envelope, take it to the post office, put a stamp on it, and send it to you. That's a job that isn't doing the 12 step, but it's making the 12 step possible. And in this tradition, it also says that if we relied upon volunteers to do all these background jobs, then the managing our website or publishing our books or shipping our books, or some of the other professional services we rely upon, like a CPA to audit our financial reports. If we asked for volunteers to do it, they would not be reliable. According to AA's experience, people volunteer and then don't necessarily show up every time you need them, day and night, or whatever it is, for the long term. You can't rely upon volunteers for these things. So we do have people we pay to do background work that makes it possible for all of us to do 12-step work. Thanks.
Thank you, Grania, for tradition 8. Any questions, comments for Grania? Anyone want
Yo
to
quiero
add
preguntar,
something?
¿cómo hacer una parte de transmitir esta tradición como desde una fuente de la literatura para este grupo que estamos empezando? Hay partes donde he necesitado un profesional, pero en muchos años lo descarté y sufrí muchísimo. Hoy sé que no puedo sin mi reunión de GSA, pero tampoco puedo descartar al psicólogo o al psiquiatra, por más que la cita sea cada 6 meses, cada 4 meses o como sea, pero es una ayuda y es parte como hoy del trabajo que Dios ha hecho en mí a través de Alcohólicos Anónimos y de GSA. ¿Cómo poder yo estar eh, procurando transmitir desde el principio? O sea, como hacerme un resumen y poder leerlo como secretaria que soy del grupo y como parte de la tesorería, porque también la manejo y otra compañera y yo hacemos esa parte de tesorería, pero sí quiero como trabajar mucho esa parte porque veo que no visitan al profesional y creen que solo en GSA o que, bueno, la experiencia la he compartido y parece que cala, pero quiero hablar más desde el texto básico, lo que he podido aprender y caminar para realmente encontrar la luz de Dios. Y bueno, creo que ahí encontré como la respuesta ya, como sí, ir compartiendo ahí. Gracias.
Gracias, Angela.
Qué bien.
So
No se oye.
I'm reading Olga's translation, how to share this tradition from the literature for our group. There was a time I had to pay for therapy, for instance. How do I share with the group from now? In brief, I am the treasurer. They don't go to therapy. They may need to. So I love that there is a new group in Colombia and that you are anxious to follow the traditions and the concepts. And I would like to separate the idea of GreySheet and a GreySheet group from what personal individual members do. So in our AA literature, it says we may need to seek outside help. But that is an individual decision, not a group decision. So I wouldn't say anything in terms of giving people advice about outside help. That's an individual decision. to educate a group of GreySheeters about this tradition, I would suggest reading the AA 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which I know is available in Spanish, and the GSA 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which is also available in Spanish. It's not published and available on Amazon.com yet, but if you talk to your intergroup, you can get a preview of the Spanish version of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. And you could spend one meeting a month, for example, reading the traditions from the literature, and that would help people understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Grania. Maggie, you had your hand up earlier. Did you still? No? Okay. Okay. Moving on. Grania will be presenting concept 8 for 5 minutes, and then we will have questions.
Thank you, Linda. Concept 8 in the AA Service Manual says, the trustees of the General Service Board, which is our World Services Board, act in 2 primary capacities. A, with respect to the larger matters of overall policy and finance, they are the principal planners and administrators. They and their primary committees directly manage these affairs. B, but with respect to our separately incorporated and constantly active services, the relation of the trustees is mainly that of full stock ownership and custodial oversight, which they exercise through their ability to elect all directors of these entities. So this concept doesn't make much sense in the GreySheet environment, because in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have the General Service Board, and then they have 2 separate corporations called the Grapevine and World Services. And the General Service Board elects the directors, the Board of Trustees, for each of those 2 businesses. And then they don't have to have their hands on the day-to-day matters of publishing literature and running the office, maintaining the website, maintaining contact with groups and things like that. They can just look at the big picture and say, where is AA going? What are the big issues that we need to deal with? That's not our situation. Our situation is we don't have a staff in World Services. We certainly don't have 2 separate businesses that have their own board of directors. We have a board of trustees, which, if anything is to get done, we have to do it ourselves. So this chapter says that the board should have a hands-off policy on day-to-day matters. For example, today in our board meeting, we debated whether we would purchase a subscription to DocuSign so that we could facilitate easy signatures by committees and the board of different policies. There is no way that AA's board of directors would ever debate whether they're going to buy DocuSign. That's something that some office manager somewhere who's paid a salary to work for AA would have made that decision, and it would be happening in the background. We are so small compared to AA. We don't have the funds to have the staff, and yet we know the problem of compulsive eating is just as big as the problem of alcoholism. And we want to reach as many people as AA reaches. And so the workload of everybody who steps up to get involved with World Services is quite heavy, much more so than it is in AA. The AA board only meets quarterly. 4 times a year, they meet and they get reports from the directors of the Grapevine and World Services. And they say, yep, that sounds good. You're generally in line with the principles we laid out. Keep doing what you're doing. We're the ones on our board of trustees in GreySheet who have to do what needs to be done if it's going to get done. So this chapter doesn't really directly relate to GSA, but I think the principle is that, again, as was previously stated in a previous concept, groups elect GSRs who elect the board, and then they trust the board to execute the policy that the conference agreed to. And the board shouldn't be nitpicked to death for every decision it makes, because if it doesn't make a decision, it doesn't happen. That's a little aggressive point to end on there, but that's where the timer went off. So I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Grania. Do we have any questions for the next 5 minutes over concept 8? Dottie.
Yeah, I'm talking again. So let's see, August 16th, 1999. Thank you so much. Well, this is more of a statement. My sponsee and my money program, Debtors Anonymous, has become a GSR, and I'm going through the DA concepts with her because they have a 12 and 12 and they have the concepts in the book as well. And concept 8, I really enjoyed reading the little tiny 4 pages. It's nice and short because it's a small program, though bigger than we are. And it did discuss, it went back to tradition 2. What's the difference between governing and serving? And I really enjoyed reading it. It's something worth looking at, to help us write our own, concepts, because AA is so complex and so big that it's hard to understand. Like I have the pink service manual, and holy cow, reading that is tough. And it's the DA one is very approachable, simple, and it relates to us more being a small program. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yo quiero comentar algo. Bueno, tengo acá en mis manos el libro de Alcohólicos Anónimos, los 3 legados ilustrados, y en el concepto 8 me está hablando de estos asuntos. La Junta tiene que funcionar con gran cuidado y reflexión para planear, dirigir y ejecutar. Y yo sí quisiera como que en esta reunión pudiera tener alguien de aquí de Colombia o alguien donde ya podamos consultar antes de dar pasos, porque para mí este grupo es un regalo divino de GSA presencial aquí en Medellín, Antioquia, Colombia, y no quisiera que cometiéramos errores por andar solos, como con la comida compulsiva. Entonces, no sé, pues esa parte me gustaría como tener ese apadrinamiento como grupo.
Thank you for that.
I'm going to try to answer. I'm going to read.
No se escucha.
Thank you, Angela. Olga is translating it, and I think I know what we're going to be talking about. So Olga says, I have AA illustrated. This is what Angela said. Concept 8, we should plan and execute carefully. Who is here in Colombia I could approach for guidance as a group? So what I would suggest, Angela, is that your group elect a representative to go to the intergroup meetings once a month. La Comunidad Hispana has an intergroup that meets, and Gabby, you correct me if I'm wrong, the first Saturday of the month. After the morning meeting, I believe it's around 8:30 Eastern time, New York time. I don't know what time that is in Colombia. And the La Comunidad Hispana intergroup works very hard to understand and apply the traditions and the concepts. So if you had a representative from your group at that monthly meeting, you would learn a lot about the traditions and the concepts and how they apply to your groups, which are spread all over Latin America. And I will let Olga translate.
Y una pregunta. En el grupo solo somos dos con más de 90 días de abstinencia. Yo la secretaria y la compañera la tesorera, pero como ella no tiene esa mucha experiencia, entonces yo llevo los registros y ella guarda los dineros y los recibos. ¿Alguna de las dos podría hacer esto? O yo podría decirles, ¿me permiten que yo esté como secretaria y como representante del grupo mientras otra cumpla los 90 días para que
I'm
el
really
servicio
sorry,
sea
but we need
repartido? ¿Puede
to wrap
ser
up
así que
because the
empecemos?
literature committee needs to meet on this same account, and we will have to take these questions offline. So thank you all for participating and being here, and let's say the serenity prayer really quickly and head out. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Linda. Beautifully done. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.